Saturday.
Do we have a fantasy star on our hands here, George? Here is the question with Jaden Daniels of the Washington Commanders. A lot of folks went into the fantasy season saying, hey, look, maybe this isn't Anthony Richardson, but it could be the next best thing. I'm here to tell you, I don't know. I'm sort of feeling like Daniels could be better than Anthony Richardson.
I don't know if I'm going to go there yet, all right? But I think he's in the conversation, yeah. What did we hear at draft time? A lot of people wanted a quarterback who could move, right? You don't want the guy who's going to take 5-7 steps and throw the football anymore because you want that additional rushing yards. You know, you get 50, 60 yards, that's a touchdown, right? That's why Josh Allen is so valuable. Lamar Jackson is so valuable, right? You go up and down. Jalen Hurts. You go up and down here. I think Daniels is going to be a good quarterback. I think Washington got their guy, and he can throw the football too. I mean, we know McLaurin's a really good wide receiver. It may not be much else there. We'll see what McCaffrey can be. Luke McCaffrey can be there in time. But, you know, I do have hope for him. I think at season's end, he's going to be a quarterback one. It may be a low-end quarterback one, but a quarterback one nonetheless.
Yeah, I was really impressed watching him in that game. All right, now Anthony Richardson, look, he's going to have a big year. He's going to have a big fantasy year. There's no question about it. I don't know about the long-term viability here. And look, give him credit. He hung in there with the Houston Texans. My fear for him, George, is that when you go back and you watch film, if you protect the deep ball against Richardson, he could hurt you with his legs. And that may be where all of his fantasy value is coming from. I cannot see him throwing 2 70-yard bombs like he did again.
That should come in time, right? Practice time. I think he will get better here. I think Richardson's going to be fine. Does need to learn how to avoid hits. All right. Once again, that hit. Remember that hit from Tua last night? He initiated it. Slide. The rules are made for you not to get hit. Take advantage of them.
Let's roll. This is Sports Rage. I am Gabriel Morency. The picks, the players, the hustlers, the people to bust them, and everybody else in between. Let's do this thing. The Wicked Wednesday has begun. Countdown to kickoff continues, although it feels like it's getting here sooner rather than later, and we're going to find out who's going to be playing in the Super Bowl. Either way, we could have a Super Bowl rematch from 1991 with Washington or Buffalo, and we could have a rematch from a couple of years ago with Philadelphia and Kansas City. We're breaking it down this evening. We'll get you caught up to date with the updated numbers. Let's start to take a look at some of the props as well. There's been a lot of talk about the officiating in the National Football League, especially around the Kansas City Chiefs games. Patrick Mahomes talked about the officials today. We've gone over the numbers of Clete Blakeman, who will be the official for the Buffalo and the Kansas City game. But if you missed it, we'll go over a little bit again tonight. And it's funny. Everyone's talking about who's reffing the Kansas City game, but people really haven't talked a lot about who's going to be reffing the Washington and Philadelphia game. But we can tell you that the crew, it's Hockley's crew, or at least Hockley and others. Hockley is going to be the head guy because they don't have it's not always the same crew members in the playoffs. But the Eagles are 6-0 with Hockley. So not a lot of people are talking about that. We will this evening. We'll get our boy Joe Gibbs on later in the week, NFL Ref Stats 1 on Twitter X. We've got games to break down tonight, though, to pad your bankroll for the big games this weekend in the National Football League. And a little bit of something for everybody once again this evening. Let's start off in the National Basketball Association. Steph Curry is playing. The Warriors are a little bit shorthanded, but Curry is there. Wiggins is there. Draymond Green not playing. But they're getting 7.5 points tonight against the Sacramento Kings. The Kings have been straight money, straight cash, homie, since Doug Christie's taken over. They're 9-1 straight up in the last 10 basketball games. They're 9-2 since he's taken over. So they're scorching. And you notice now people aren't complaining so much about Mike Brown and how unfair it was that he got fired, right? It's funny how sports fans have short memories, don't they? So the Sacramento Kings, they're red hot. I don't know if they should really be laying 7.5 points in this game, but the Golden State Warriors are just an average basketball team this year and are not at full strength right now. I get the feeling that they will be lighting the beam tonight in Sacktown, but I don't want to lay the 7.5. You could parlay it with the Boston Celtics. Now, the Boston Celtics, I was going to say they're playing the Clippers, but not really. They're not really playing the Clippers. I don't know who the hell they're playing tonight. Like, what's the Clippers G League team called? Because I think they might have a better shot at this. I'm actually surprised the number's not more than 11.5, but maybe Boston just sort of rolls in here and takes everything for granted. But the Clippers, I don't even know where to start here tonight. The Clippers, so they don't have, listen, I would say they don't have Kawhi Leonard, but they never have Kawhi Leonard. So, but they don't have Kawhi Leonard. They don't have James Harden. So Harden's great, man, when Kawhi's not there. Like the Clippers, the Clippers were a very good team earlier this year when Harden was just running the show, scoring and passing and distributing the ball. But Harden's not there to save the show. Norm Powell, for Raptor fans that don't realize this, Norm Powell's really turned into a real scorer. Listen, Norm Powell's always had that talent. I said this many, many years ago about Norm Powell. I said, really, he could be DeMar DeRozan. Like, he could score 25 points a game in an NBA game if he sort of applied himself. You know, Norm Powell liked to have a little bit of fun early in his NBA career. And I think, it's too bad he didn't, take it a little bit more seriously earlier, I think. And he would have been, maybe he would have been this scorer that he is now a little bit earlier. But he's found that consistency right now with the Clippers. But he's not playing. So you got Mo Bamba, Amir Coffey, Derrick Jones Jr., Terrence Mann, and Kevin Porter Jr. Taking on Jason Tatum, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, Luke Cornett, Jaylen Brown. So Boston Celtics laying 11.5 points. Those are the player props. And I was thinking, the players that are listed, and I was thinking, all right, well, somebody's got to score for the Clippers tonight. So who's it going to be? I don't really want to trust that Amir Coffey is going to get the 14 points. I'm looking at this. Listen, Kevin Porter Jr. is 16.5. I think Terrence Mann, they're going to have to play Terrence Mann tonight. So Terrence Mann's going to get some playing time. And it's 10.5 points for Terrence Mann. This is more of a gut feel pick. I really wouldn't be messing with too many Boston props due to the fact that they could be murdering these guys. All right? Like they could be lighting them up. So if they're really lighting them up, then, if it's a big-time route, like I said, the Clippers don't have anybody. So I think the Celtics probably cover the money line parlay, unfortunately, is like minus 190. So it's a little pricey with Sacktown and the Boston Celtics to win the game. Then you get into, all right, you could add something else onto it. Now, I can tell you, I've been playing a lot of plays and just putting the Buffalo Bills at the back end of it. Buffalo Bills plus adding some points to it because I already have a bunch of Buffalo Bills AFC Conference Championship bets in. So now I'm like, all right, I got to sort of cover myself and, get the Bills plus 7, get the Bills on teasers and stuff like that. We got to start figuring it out. But, we've been attacking it. You can play basketball and football teasers, something that's not discussed very often. We'll get into that in the program a little bit tonight. We don't do it often, but at this time of the year when there's not that many football games, it's something to consider. And/or moneyline parlays. You can play the alternate point spread on top of that. Speaking of point spreads, bad beat for Xavier backers tonight. I was not one of them. But we did have St. John's in a moneyline parlay with Nebraska. And something tells me this isn't going to be an easy game for Nebraska either. And, I'm not I used to play more moneyline parlays. It's a lazy way out. It's like taking a 3-point shot. Right? You're like, oh, this team won't lose. This team's 12-0 on their home court. Thing is, with college basketball, there's like a nightly upset. Somebody's going to lose, right? Like there's just these weird, I can't believe they lost. They were 11-1 on their home court. They lost as 8-point favorites. And tonight was one of those nights with St. John's. They were laying 7.5 against Xavier. And Xavier were up by double digits. Xavier got up by like 14, 16 points in the second half. And St. John's stormed back, literally and figuratively, pun intended. They stormed back, and they set the game to overtime. And then it's, the dreaded when you're on the underdog in overtime. St. John's ended up winning by 8 and covering the number. You can't make it up. They won 79-69 71 to cover the number. Meanwhile, Nebraska and USC, feels strange to say it, but we got a Big Ten game going on here. Big Ten basketball between the Trojans and the Huskers. Nebraska up 33-31 at the half. The second half just tipped off, actually. They were like 6.5-point favorites in this game. They're currently laying 5.5. In-game total is 138.5. We got K-State and Baylor. Second half just got started in Texas, in Waco right now. 35-26 for Kansas State. Connor Mack is going to step up and in, and I know Connor Mack did a show earlier in the day in which he broke down all these college basketball games. So we'll talk some college basketball with Connor Mack, the Raging Redhead. Steps up and in. Ian Cameron, a.k.a. Babano. Brady Cannon joined us last night, and Paul Bovey's going to join us tomorrow. So we've got a different style Wicked Wednesday tonight. A lot of college basketball talk, and, of course, we'll attack the National Football League playoffs as well. Let's roll. This is Sports Rage. Bring it.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take.
Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity. I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results. What?
How do you do this once?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is Sports Rage. I am Gabriel Morency, the pits, the players, the hustlers, the people, the bust them, and everybody else in between. Let's do this thing. Got a lot of basketball going on. The T-Wolves up 115-114 on the Dallas Mavericks with like a couple of seconds left in that game. It's been quite an entertaining game, that game. Kyrie Irving back for the Dallas Mavericks right now. We got a bunch of college basketball going on, and in fact, I just put in a in-game play. I'm already on Nebraska on the money line to close out a two-team money line parlay with St. John's minus 134. That's what the parlay was, minus 134. it's one of these deals. I barely escaped. I won a game in overtime. The comeback down 16. And now it's the same thing here with Nebraska. Nothing's easy. It's 36-35. I just bet in-game over 135.5 in this game. It was 134.5 briefly. It just went to 136.5 right now. It's 36-36 now. There's 17 minutes left. USC games generally get into the 80s, actually. Like, to beat USC, you kind of got to score like 81 points. Like, USC, usually, they seem to lose like 81-73 a lot. Now, it doesn't mean Nebraska are going to be able to hang 81 on them, but when we got a low number like this, 135, 136.5, this is manageable. Basically 67, 67, that type of neighborhood with a minute left is going to get this game over the number. So let's go over the number here in game. Nebraska, USC, it's currently sitting at 136.5 right now. Florida State is at Cal right now. Cal are up by 5. Florida State were like 1.5 favorites in this game. I kind of think, Cam, the Cal are the play here, actually. They're up 5. It's a pick 'em. It's minus 115 right now. San Diego State are laying like 13.5 to Air Force on the road. So we got a bunch of college basketball going on. And as I stated earlier, I saw Connor Mack did a college basketball breakdown preview earlier in the day. So maybe he's got some thoughts on these games that are going on right now. Connor, good to see you. How you doing tonight? What do you think about the late night basketball card going on here? Anything catch your eye?
Yeah, a little bit. Obviously, we only have one game left, which I can't get involved with. I think this Miami team has it's kind of quit a little bit since Larinaga left. This offense the defense is just, man, it's gone nowhere to be seen. And 117 points to SMU. Not very good. So, Stanford, a team I really want to lay points with after the big win against North Carolina, coming all the way back home. Not really. But touched on real quick, Gabe, yeah, I like the Cal. I know they're up here. I thought that was a great look. Them catching 1.5 earlier.
We saw guys in college football this year that the West Coast teams seem to struggle more going on the road to the Midwest than vice versa. And although we did see some teams struggle, as it goes, quite frankly, they're not used to the trips. And you see this in the ACC as well. Look at Miami, Florida, when they went to Cal and played football. They barely escaped the game. And you get these teams like Miami, Florida, Florida State, going on the road to the West Coast in the middle of the season to the Bay Area and stuff. Not a favorable spot for them.
Definitely not. It's and now it's just for what we've seen, like you talked about, from football to now, which we've never seen from in the Pac-12 all those years. Just this flying, you know what I mean? Where it's a football game and then college now, from back and forth and kind of building, what's the word? Data on it, now that they never data on kind of what we do, because they just never have done that before. trying to get it out there, spit it out there.
I like your call with Cal. I think they're at home. I know people like Florida State. It's a nice number right now. Straight up pick on FanDuel Ontario. $1.15, $1.10. I like Cal. I like where you're going through. Hockey tonight. You got Winnipeg, who's coming off that horrible loss to Utah. People think they're just going to get it back. Now you're on the road against Colorado, a team that manhandled you in the playoffs, only laying 25, 30 cents. I'm down with that program, and I like the Kings, Gabe, early against the Panthers, minus 135. That's what I'm looking at live.
The LA Kings coming off a humiliating loss the other night. Although there's been a lot of humiliating losses in the National Hockey League this week for teams. And a lot of coaches are flipping out after. Like Rick Tocchet finally broke down, the Vancouver Canuck coach today, and said, I'm disappointed in the team this year. The Winnipeg Jet coach, and the Jets have been really good this year. The Jets coach said that was embarrassing, and, we played horrible in our last game. The LA Kings coach, same thing. What the hell happened tonight against the Pittsburgh Penguins? Generally, teams will bounce back after the fact, after they get humiliated like that. Panthers won a pretty easy one last night in Anaheim. It's back-to-back, but it's in the same city. I kind of lean Kings tonight, but I didn't pull the trigger. I didn't pull the trigger on it. So you're looking at Miami and Stanford. The Miami Hurricanes just 4-14 on the season. Yet it's not like they cover point spreads. They're 3-15 against the spread, which is just terrible. Like they can't cover a number, Connor.
Can't cover a number at all. 3-15. I haven't wanted to back them, and I don't know how long. Especially as soon as Larinaga left, that's really where they seem to have just sacked it in here. You know, the kids just, there's no defense. The offense has been really bad as well. You know, they from half to half, there's no consistency with this team. Turnovers, they're bad on the glass. It's just a difficult time for Miami. We'll see. It might take a while for them to turn this around in college basketball.
If ever, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yes. I will say this quickly, Gabe, because we're not going to get into golf later, but what I saw from Ludwig Aberg today was absolutely mesmerizing. The guy brought his D game, and he's 9 under par and just crushing these guys. Like, if this guy actually shows up to the course and he's not drinking the night before, people have a lot of problems. This guy's an absolute animal. He's 9 under, just crushing everybody. 10-1 pre-favorite.
They look good in the TGL when he played. So Stanford minus 650 on the money line. It's pricey for money line parlay players as well. So if you want to play this game, you got to lay 11 points with the Cardinals. This is SportsRage.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he's becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you, too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Real momentum on Deion Sanders becoming the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
I heard that this morning.
And Dallas is interested in the idea. Deion is interested in the idea, and there is equal interest in moving up to get Shedeur Sanders to be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys under Deion.
Be a hell of a reality show.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP of the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP of the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
SportsRage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I am Morency, Sirius XM Channel 159, SportsGrid Radio and Television Network. Final Four in the National Football League. We'll get Connor's thoughts on that. But as we're talking college basketball now, the season, the sports calendar rolls on. And, you know, the regular season is rolling on. There's been Final Four talk now, and future talk is starting to pop up out there. And looking at the updated numbers right now, there's a lot of the usual suspects. The Duke Blue Devils are plus 500 to win the national championship. The Auburn Tigers, a team that I like a lot, plus 550. Iowa State, 11-1 right now. The Houston Cougars, at some point, it's hard to have confidence in this team. Like, they're going to make it to they're going to go deep in the tournament. They're going to find themselves in a game where they fall behind. They can't come back because they can't score. But they're always just knocking on the door all the time. They're 12-1. The inconsistent Alabama Crimson Tide, 14-1. Tennessee, 16. It's like an SEC fest here. Tennessee, 16. Florida, 18. Kentucky, 18. The two-time champ, UConn Huskies, 25-1 right now. Gonzaga, 25. I like this Illinois team at 28-1. Kansas are 28-1. My Michigan Wolverines are 35-1 right now. What do you think about the college basketball future board right now, Connor? Does any team or two catch your eye?
I think for the price that you were going through there, two of them really at that big, almost the 30-1, 28-1, Illinois and Kansas. Just Kansas real quick, just because what they can do year in and year out, and of course winning titles and being right there in the Final Four. That's kind of why Houston, in the end, the defense is so smothering. They'll just have that bad shooting night, as we've seen consistently the last 2 or 3 years, and they can't get there and can't finish. Even though, I mean, look how smothering that defense was today. Just unbelievable against Utah. So good. I think Utah had 5 points with, 8 minutes left in that game. So that was just crazy.
It was like 23-5 at one point.
Yeah, 23-5 with eight something left. I'm like, this is they just were all over them, turnovers left and right. But I think kind of a flyer is Illinois. I don't know in the end if they could win it all, but I think there's a ton of value with this team just because the young kids that they have, and especially I think they could really play with anybody. And they've shown it earlier in the year, which is a big parameter for me, is on a neutral floor, and that's where they played well early on in the year.
I think Illinois and Michigan, and I've been saying this, I think they're the best two teams in the Big Ten. And I think Michigan are dangerous due to the fact that May has been there before. He's been to a Final Four before. He's got NCAA tournament experience. Players on Michigan have been in the Final Four with him before as well. And then you throw in the talent that Michigan has. But I kind of get their feeling that they're more of an Elite Eight type of team. Illinois, same thing. They've got the talent to play with anybody. And I'm kind of a Kansas mark, in which I always think there's value with Kansas. And it is rare, guys. It's pretty crazy, Connor, to see the Kansas Jayhawks at 28-1. And it's not like they suck. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, normally it'd be 6-1. It's not like it's like, oh, they're terrible this year. It's like, no, they're not. And they have a lot of experience as well. Like, you get into an NCAA tournament. I mean, Hunter Dickinson, this kid might as well have went to BYU, bro. He's like 30 years old now, I think.
He is. Like,
he's been playing forever.
The jokes running around with him are getting crazy.
He was old at Michigan. Like, he's just hanging on to his college life.
It's so
the one thing, guys, about Kansas is you see what they do at home, and other teams, it's almost like when they're at home, it's like, okay, they can get outplayed, Gabe. You know this too. We've been watching basketball for a long time. You take their show on the road. If they can find ways to get road wins, that is an absolute good number, and that's something we can sink our teeth into. But that's the one thing about the Jayhawks. Like, it's just they win at home, but when you take their show on the road, they got to be a little bit better. That's all.
Yeah, definitely.
Looking at the SEC as well. What a loaded conference. Like, just absolutely loaded, but they're going to beat each other up in the SEC Conference Championship and the tournament. So there's only going to be one left standing, and there's still a lot of basketball left to be played here. But we'll hit this on the other side. But all the talk about SEC football all the time, it's hard to deny. Look, the Big Ten have won the last 2 championships. The Big Ten did very well against the SEC in the bowl games. The Big Ten is stealing players from SEC teams now. So there is definitely a swing in the football landscape to the Big Ten. But ironically enough, college basketball, the SEC is just a freaking monster.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he's becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you, too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Real momentum on Deion Sanders becoming the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
I heard that this morning.
And Dallas is interested in the idea. Deion is interested in the idea, and there is equal interest in moving up to get Shedeur Sanders to be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys under Deion.
Be a hell of a reality show.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP in the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP in the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
This is Sports Rage. I am Morency. The pits, the players, the hustlers, the people that bust them, and everybody else in between. SGA put up a ton of points tonight on the anniversary, actually, of Kobe Bryant hanging 81 on the Raptors. We'll get to the final number, what he ended up with. But he was at like 41 earlier in the game. They ended up, I don't think they covered, actually. They won 123 to 114, and SGA ends up with 54 points when it's all said and done tonight. Unbelievable performance. I mean, I don't see how he's not the MVP the way that this kid is balling out this year. And unbelievable, too. 54 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists as well. So a complete game for SGA. And 123-114 final score. We'll get you the MVP odds a little bit later on. We got Carter Mack in the house with us right now. So I should note, USC giving Nebraska all that they can handle. Do you have any thoughts on that game, Connor, tonight? USC have been competitive. They're not winning these Big Ten games, but they have been competitive. But we know Lincoln is one of the toughest places to play, whether Nebraska are good or not. It is a tricky place to play, and I figured USC I thought it was a tricky point spread here, but I thought Nebraska would win the game. They still could. It's 50-47 right now. But what did you think of this game?
I was right with you. I know they've struggled a little bit while SC's been kind of hot of late. Come back a huge second half against Illinois on the road, come back home, get a couple wins. And after 4 straight losses, but when you look at these in college basketball, 3 of them were on the road versus Purdue, Iowa. I don't call them really horrible losses for Nebraska, except the home one, which finally snapped, I believe, over a 20-game win streak at home. So I thought it was the perfect setup for Nebraska with their struggles, especially we talked about the travel, having to come travel all the way back. You know, these Midwest teams, they go to L.A., and these teams from L.A. over on the West Coast going there. So I was on Nebraska as well. I laid the 6, so I'm needing it.
Thank you. What a difference it makes, too. If you're USC and you're UCLA, it freaking sucks. Like, there's nothing good about it. Like, you're going to Lincoln, Nebraska. You're going to East Lansing, Michigan. Like, you're going to, like, Purdue and these places. It's cold. It's dark. It's bleak all the time. And then conversely, like Michigan basketball played against UCLA and USC. Bro, they stayed at the W in Beverly Hills for 6 days.
You're so
Michigan,
right.
Michigan loved it. They were like, oh, this is great. We play USC. We got 3 days off. We play UCLA. We're staying at the same hotel. We're staying in Beverly Hills. And Michigan players, like I was reading about, they really enjoyed the trip to California. Like, it's a big difference, Ken. Like, if you're USC, like, how fun is this going to East Lansing to play Michigan State or Lincoln, Nebraska?
Why do you think Nebraska, even when they were a horrible basketball team, would beat good teams? It's like you go there and you're like dead. Like you go in there, like, what are you going to do tonight? Go bowling, 5-pin? Like there's nothing like what that's the thing, Gabe. You go to LA, it's like, hey, we can do this and we can do this. Yeah. Like that's the whole
and let me
thing.
tell you, these poor kids, they're not staying in New York City when they play against Rutgers either. You know what I'm saying? The only time they see New York is when they fly into Newark in New Jersey. They're like, hey, there's New York over there. They're going to get on a bus, and the next thing you know, they're going to be in Piscataway. You know?
But
that's not fun either.
Joking aside, that's why those schools have major advantages, and Nebraska's been a great home dog and a home team for a while.
Yeah, and in football.
Yes.
But in football, it's even worse because these West Coast teams have to go into bad weather. Yep. Like it wasn't the Pac-12 really did not think this through about joining the Big Ten, like about the possibilities of like how we're going to be at a disadvantage the whole time. And you're seeing it in basketball. You see it in football. And like I said, it's like, let's be real too, guys. It's easier for a cold weather team to go into nice weather than it is a nice weather team to go into bad weather. Although I will say there really wasn't that too many bad weather games this year in college football. Like there was a few in the MAC and stuff like that. And look, not until the playoffs. And it was December 21st and SMU got screwed. Who cares? But like if you think about it, there was no like West Coast team that played in horrible weather. Like, you know what I'm saying?
That's not you. Who cares? I was like,
well, whatever. Like, they were going to lose anyways.
They wouldn't have won anyway. They could have. If you played literally in the sun, they're done. Like they're done.
Yeah, but it was the playoffs, so it was cold. Yeah. It is what it is. I'm just stating, like in October and November, it's not really cold anymore, right? You know what I mean? It's not the same as used to be. Okay, so speaking of which. We did have snow on the field, obviously, in Philadelphia this past week, and the Rams were right there late in the football game. Now you get the Washington Commanders rolling in here. What are your thoughts on this? From an X and O standpoint, I mean, Washington do give up over 140 yards a game on the ground, and that's their weakness, and we know that Philadelphia can carve them up, and Saquon did go off both times that he played against them, but Washington are red hot, so it's an interesting matchup. Who do you like?
This one's tough here. Will this get to 7? What do you guys think, real quick?
No,
you think
no,
gets to
I
7?
don't think it will.
6.5 close. That's my opinion.
I feel like we're just starting to see some 6.5s. I don't think it gets there either. I think Philly wins this game, but these teams know each other so well. You know what I mean? Obviously, Hurts didn't play that second game. They have the big lead. They blow it and lose it. And that first game, Washington was winning 10-3 going to the fourth. And Philly has a great fourth quarter, scored 3 touchdowns in that game and win at 26-18 and get the cover. The biggest thing is Barkley, like you talked about. I don't know how they'll stop him. I mean, he's just a man on a mission, flat out. They gave up, like you talked about, 140 a game. He had 150, 146. I think you just keep giving it to that guy and hope your D plays well. And hope Daniels, who's just been like superhuman, rookie quarterback on the road to make some mistakes in this game. I think you have to look for him to do it because he's just been so good, all year long at making plays. And I think that could keep him in. And I think if you like Washington, you like the over. You like Eagles, you like the under. Yeah.
I think Gabe brought up the best point earlier on in the weekend. Philadelphia wants to slow down the game, have Barkley pound them into oblivion and tenderize them, and then everything's good. But if they want to get into like a shooting match with Daniels, good luck with that. That's what brings Washington into play. And they have a lot of dangerous guys, Gabe. Like you've seen McLaurin play. Ertz has been good. They have a Brown from North Carolina. He's really stepped up.
So
Philadelphia wants to slow the game down.
It comes down to Jalen Hurts, though, because the Commanders are going to all out, sell out to stop Saquon Barkley.
For sure.
They're going to know this. They're going to stack the box. They're going to play man-to-man. And that's where they could get killed. Like I could see Dallas Goedert having a big game over the middle of the field on them. It's like a pick your poison. So we'll see. Hurts has been struggling. You know, he's a limited participant in practice today. He's far from 100%, but he's never really 100%. But he did get lit up late in those games. So finally, in closing, you sound like you're still undecided, Carter, on that one. We got a minute and a half only. So what about the Bills game after? But you're undecided, it sounds like.
Yeah, I haven't moved on that game at all. The Bills game is great. I mean, I think the Bills, if they could ever get the Chiefs, would be now. The biggest thing we touched on this game real quick is the refs. You know, I even went through Bateman's the ref here since he's been there. The most penalties in the league, almost 16. Obviously, it's not his crew. And Mahomes, basically the only losing ref he's been with him as head ref. He's 5-6. So will he get these calls that he's been getting here at home? And one thing for the Bills, can they turn him over? That's what they did so well, Gabe, when they beat him in the regular season, and they have been beating him. Mahomes had 2 picks. Buffalo's been phenomenal. I mean, 24 turnovers this year have been super, super good. They do that, they can win this football game. So it should be really great. But Chiefs win it still.
Carter says Chiefs win it again.
Shut his
Hey, listen,
mic,
it should be noted with that total, they played 3 times in the playoffs in the last 4 years or whatever. Not one of the games stayed under 47.5 points. 51 was the lowest scoring games they had. That was last year, 27-24. Carter Mack in the house. Thanks, Carter.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he is becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Real momentum on Deion Sanders becoming the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
I heard that this morning.
And Dallas is interested in the idea. Deion is interested in the idea, and there is equal interest in moving up to get Shedeur Sanders to be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys under Deion.
Be a hell of a reality show.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP in the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP in the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
This is Sports Rage. I am Morency, the pits, the players, the hustlers, the people that bust them, everybody else in between. Let's get you a quick update with what's going on. Right now, 26-26 with the Warriors and Kings early in the second quarter. Celtics already up 13-7 early, 3 minutes into the game against a Clipperless Clipper team. Nobody is playing for them tonight. No Harden, no Kawhi, no Powell, no Zubac. Other than that, it's just fine. So they're without 4 of their 5 starters this evening. So they're in trouble. We gave you the in-game over 135.5 in USC Nebraska. It's currently 141.5. We got a 57 game with 6 minutes left in Lincoln. We talked about liking Cal. At the time, they were a pick 'em. Now Cal are up by 10, 63-53 on FSU. Air Force are lingering and hanging around with SDSU right now. San Diego State were 13.5, 14-point road favorites. They're only up by 4 with 7 minutes left in the first quarter of play. NHL hockey, the Colorado Avalanche are up 1-0 on the Winnipeg Jets midway through the second period. And the Kings and Panthers, no goals on the board with about 30 seconds left in the first period of play. Let's bring in Captain Chalk, George Kurtz, in the house. Good to see you, Chalk. What's going on, George? How you doing tonight?
Good to see you, Chalk.
As you can get tonight. I said, I've been good lately. I've been taking more dogs, but I've been losing on all the dogs. I get tired of taking these guys. I took a bath the other night taking, it was Columbus. I took as a dog against the Islanders because I don't know how the Islanders are minus 184 against anybody. And they actually beat the Blue Jackets. And I forget the other dog I took. I think it might have been Tampa Bay against Toronto. Because once again, I didn't think the price was right for that. And, of course, I lost on both. So I was better off taking
What about Vancouver? What about Vancouver losing last night to Buffalo? That was a parlay buster.
Crazy. Buffalo actually came back for a change. Usually they gag and then they fought back. That's rare. Very rare. Like, what do you say?
Vancouver are just a bad home team. It is what it is. They've been blown out. They've blown leads. Like, it's just an embarrassment at home. The Canucks, and they're good on the road. Like, if it wasn't for their road ways, their season really would be in trouble. But for the first time, and I brought it up earlier, Kurtz, Rick Tocchet. There's been a lot of coaches this week, actually, if you'll notice. And I know you follow the NHL closely, but the Winnipeg Jet coach lost it the other night after the game, and they've had a great year. And he's like, he didn't get into Terrian territory, but he was like, I got a lot of guys that aren't showing up. Like, he basically. Rick Tocchet uses that line. He goes, we have too many passengers on this team. He goes, we got a lot of passengers. You're just watching, right? And the guy in the Jets was like, that was an embarrassment. And, like, really? And he really, like, ripped into them. He goes, we've done so many things well this year, and it's like we're forgetting how to do it. And he was mad. The Kings coach was mad after the Penguins game. We're getting to the point of the year right now where tempers and tensions are rising, George, in the NHL.
Yeah, right. We're past the halfway mark now, right? The trade deadline is, it's a month and a half away, but it's getting there. We're hearing a lot more trade noise. And I think for the Vancouver Canucks, I mean, once again, you live here in New York, all you hear about is JT Miller going to the Rangers, that they were this close to getting it done, I think, Saturday, but they were quibbling over protection, over the first-round protection. I guess that, once again, the Rangers be sending the Canucks the first-round pick, and they wanted protection. Why? I don't understand that. The Rangers are only 2 points out of a playoff spot. You would think they're going to make the playoffs and not worry about it. But that's apparently what's going on here. But now we're hearing other teams are getting in the mix for JT Miller, although I didn't hear specifics. But I think for Vancouver, it's a lot of pressure that's going on there with the situation. You're not playing well. Plus, you got Miller versus Pettersson, whichever side you're on there. And I think Tocchet would just like it all to end.
Yeah, you know what, though? A couple of issues with that is, number one, JT Miller has a no-trade clause. So he's told them, and the list of teams is pretty damn small. And JT Miller, thinks pretty highly of himself. Like, he basically, the Rangers or the LA Kings type of deal. Like, he wants to go to, a big market city. And I've heard the Devils, right? And the Devils are pretty good. So, dude, New York, whatever, New Jersey, same damn thing, bro. You're going to live in Hoboken anyway. So, you know what I mean? To me, I could see the Devils, but it has become a problem. And it's not just Pettersson, though. Nobody likes Miller in the Canucks room. So, it's not even a dispute about who's going or anything. It's Miller's got to go. And Pettersson's not the only one. Hell, Miller and Horvat got into it before, right? Your boy Horvat now. Miller just the thing is, the Canucks need somebody to get in their face, and they have a guy that gets in their face, and then nobody likes him, right? So, and it causes problems in the room. So I really don't know, it's kind of a weird situation. But the other night, guys, once again, they didn't even hide it. Rick Tocchet was basically yelling at JT Miller on the bench. I don't know if you guys saw that, but and Miller got up and just walked to the end of the bench and sat. Tocchet told him, "You're done, bro." You said you're not even trying. You said, you don't want to try it. All right, F you. You're not going to play. And he sent him to the end of the bench. So it's getting ugly there. Like, they're going to have to address that. It's the elephant in the room right now about him showing up to work. He's getting pretty prickly with the media after these games because the media are getting pretty aggressive with him. So, and they got the big layoff coming up. All right, and we got the Connor McDavid suspension. Cam, you agree or disagree with Connor McDavid getting 3 games for cross-checking Connor Garland in the face?
3's too many. I think you said the same thing. It's a thing that happens in the NHL a lot. I give him 1. I think a lot of people think 2. I think I'm an old school guy, though. Like, that stuff happens on a nightly basis. It happens a lot. I give him a 1-game suspension just to say, hey, dude, like, you can't be doing that stuff. But I think a lot of people, the medium is 2. I will say 1. 3 is excessive. That's my opinion.
George, what do you think of the big McDavid controversy around the 3-game suspension?
Well, I think 2 things. One, Cam, I think you're nuts. So you got cross-checked in the head. You're 1 game? No, but
guys do it all the time, George. They do it all the time. All the time.
No, mine happens all the time.
They really do. They do.
It should have been the same as Tyler Myers' suspension. McDavid was nowhere near as severe as Myers. So if McDavid was going to get, Myers had to get 5. All right, because Myers, I mean, he right in the teeth. I mean, Garland was hitting more on the side of the head here. I mean, but Myers.
McDavid's been doing these little things for a long time, like the long time. I would even mind a little bit more just for the fact that he gets away with the little ones all the time. Me and Gabe talk about it. Just because you're a star player, you can't be doing that stuff all the time. He's notorious for doing it.
He did a chicken wing last week and he got away with that. No, he didn't even give him a stupid story.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he's becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you, too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Real momentum on Deion Sanders becoming the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
I heard that this morning.
And Dallas is interested in the idea. Deion is interested in the idea, and there is equal interest in moving up to get Shedeur Sanders to be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys under Deion.
Be a hell of a reality show.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP of the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP of the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
SportsRage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I am Morency. So as far as the Connor McDavid suspension's concerned, it's a little bit like the NFL and what's a catch or not, or whether it's a fumble or not. We're dealing with the modern rules, not what we used to see in the 70s or, oh, this is commonplace and not. Because to be real, it really isn't. And the difference is, if you cross someone in the face like that in the 70s or 80s or even into the mid-90s, there would be a brawl after. right? You know, like, you know what? If I do this, something bad's going to happen to me after. Like, I'm going to get, someone's going to knock my teeth out on the other. Like, someone's going to jump off the bench. There's going to be a brawl, and I'm going to have to fight someone I really didn't want to fight because I just cross-checked someone in the face. Everybody knows now that that won't happen, right? So, you know what I mean, George? It becomes just a slash fest now because there's no accountability. It's not like, oh, I'm going to get punched in the face for this and there's going to be a mass brawl for this after, because everyone's going to get suspended even more so for it. And I will say, too, that, you know, that doesn't really happen. Like, people don't try to knock each other's teeth out. Like, it seems to be the new go-to sort of, like, move in the NHL now. And it's dangerous. Like, you're going to end up breaking someone's jaw. You're going to knock, you know what I mean? Then you're going to have a big-time player out because of these cross-checks. The NHLPA has something to do with these suspensions. I think, you know, they're just sending a message. What, Austin Matthews got 2. Myers got 3. Myers was freaking vicious, too. And the dude's like 6'7". So Myers was vicious at the same time behind Cross, behind McDavid. And, you know, Garland got away with a bit there. But I think the root of the problem is just generally in the modern NHL, and same thing in junior hockey, like, they know we can't fight. So all you can really do is hit people with your stick. And you're going to end up with this, right? If there was an accountability, put it this way, George, like, that was Wayne Gretzky in the old days, and you would fine. Cross-check Wayne Gretzky at the end of the game like that in the face. But Semenko and Brackenberry are going to beat you up after. Exactly. Right? Like, they're going to, and they won't care about the suspension. They're just going to jump on the ice and start racking your face. That doesn't happen now. That's why everyone slashes each other.
You'll get no argument from me. I think you're correct. Once the NHL legislated fighting pretty much out of the game, right? Everything they do, no more fighting. And I think that does lead to more stick fouls, people using the sticks as a weapon. I dislike it. I refed men's hockey for 25 years. And I used to tell guys all the time, you want to fight? Go ahead. You know, right? I'm a ref. I'm going to watch it, and I'll give out penalties afterwards. But if that's what you want to do, do it. But don't use your sticks. You're going to get in men's hockey, you're going to get the police called on you because you are using a weapon. And also, remember, back then, sticks were heavier, right? They were more wood. They would do more damage. Now with the flex sticks and bicarbonate.
That's a good point. They're toothpicks now.
It's a very good, it's a joke. You're right.
So we can do as much damage. I think that also makes players feel like, oh, it's okay. This.
I still want to be hit in the face by Connor McDavid or Myers with the stick.
I like that.
Like it.
Well, I think the whole issue with the NHL, guys, and we can all agree with this, is the way the goaltender interference. And you play goaltender, they push guys into goaltender. That rule has just gotten worse and worse and worse and worse. Like, what do you want a guy to do in front of the net when he gets smoked in front of a goalie? That's like, he's just hanging out there trying to, you know, get a deflection, trying to do something positive in front of the net. That's the issue that I have with the NHL. Like, they got to clean that up. I think it's disgusting, to be honest with you. That's my take.
And there was a big fight tonight. Reeves got into a fight in Toronto. So when people say, when people hear us say, "Oh, there's no fighting in hockey," well, there's fighting in hockey, but the difference is you can only fight someone in hockey that wants to fight you.
Exactly.
Right? Like, you can't stalk someone down and then start just beating them up and stuff. Then, like, you're going to get suspended. Like, you know what I mean? You need to, like, there needs to be the gentleman agreement. You know, we're both going to drop the gloves, and then they go at it. But that doesn't help. That doesn't help the fear of somebody's going to do something crazy after, right? You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's all like sort of pre-planned, all this stuff. It's like you're taking, basically, I'll cut to the chase. It's the instigator rule, right? Since they took the instigator rule out, like before, whatever, you could just sort of, you know, start the fight, start a bunch of chaos, get kicked out of the game, and it wasn't a big deal. I mean, hell, the Canadians and the Nordiques used to fight before the game started, and they couldn't penalize them, like, because the game didn't start yet. There was like, what do? We can't do anything. The game didn't start yet, so there's no penalties. Go back to your room. Like, they would go out before the game and just do the little games at center ice. Somebody would set up, like, and stand there and dare the other guy to cross the line, and then finally, like, someone in the Nordiques just teed up a slap shot into the Hab zone, like in the pregame, someone was like, all right, you know what? Let's start it. And I'm just going to blast a slap shot at them. And they did. It started. It's actually Easter weekend, too. It started like one of the massive brawls. The Flyers and the Canadians did that, too, before a game. They started fighting in the pregame warm-up, a big brawl. The good old days.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he's becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you, too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Real momentum on Deion Sanders becoming the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
I heard that this morning.
And Dallas is interested in the idea. Deion is interested in the idea, and there is equal interest in moving up to get Shedeur Sanders to be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys under Deion.
Be a hell of a reality show.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP of the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP of the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
This is Sports Rage. I am Morency. We're throwing it down here. George Kurtz in the house with us. We'll get George's NFL opinions and takes on the final four. But I saw SportsGrid had a poll question, and I wanted to go over this. And the question was, are the Dodgers ruining baseball? And it's like, I understand I understand why they did the poll question, but I think it's comical, George, that the Dodgers, as recently as like 4 months ago, were known as they never win. They're big chokers, and now they're ruining the game. And it should be noted, like, we hear so many, like, just bad takes. Oh, they outspend everybody. Sasaki took $6 million to play for them. All right? You know, San Diego offered 10. Right? You know what I mean? Like, so he took half the amount of money to play. And seeing him last night at the Laker game is something as well, guys, you need to take into consideration. Some players like that. You know what I'm saying? You signed, like, you know what I mean? You signed, like, with certain teams. You know, you're not hanging out with LeBron like Sasaki was last night. They gave him a Laker jersey. He's sitting courtside at Laker games now. Like, he's living a big-time life, man. You know what I'm saying? And the team is good. And he's got his Japanese buddies there. But I want to get to the revenue stuff. But I know, George, you and I have talked about it. I know you don't think the Dodgers are destroying baseball by actually trying to win.
No, I mean, I'd be very hypocritical, right? I'm the Yankee fan. Is this where the term evil empire came in? Because the Yankees were doing things similar back in George Steinbrenner days, trying to buy as many players as possible. So no, I don't think they're ruining baseball. I applaud them because they're spending their money. Now, you already said it, Sasaki, he wasn't a free agent, all right? He was going to play where he wanted to play, not for the most money, because if he wanted the most money, he would have waited 2 years and then become a free agent, then whatever, sign whatever. He wanted to play for LA, closer to Japan, closer to home here, beautiful weather, a team that wins. He's not even the superstar on the team, right? He's got like 6 other guys who are superstars, so he's not going to have the media breathing down his neck. I've said this before. If I was a free agent in baseball, guess who I'd want to play for? Dodgers. I'd want to play for the Dodgers or the Padres. I'd want to play out west. I want to play in nice weather for a good team. The pressure's not on me. It makes sense here. I don't yell at the Dodgers for doing it. I wish the Yankees would do it more, but they're so worried about the salary cap. The Dodgers don't care. They'll go a million miles above it. And the Yankees make more money than the Dodgers, so they can do it. They just don't do it, all right? Because they're more, even though they spend a lot of money, but they still reap a lot of money as well here. So, no, I don't think the Dodgers are ruining baseball. I think the teams that don't spend money are ruining baseball.
Yes. Good call, George.
That's the problem. And that's why when you hear people talk about a salary cap, there won't be a salary cap because there's about 15 owners in baseball that will actually have to spend money, and they're not going to want to do it because if there's a salary cap, there's going to be a floor to what they can spend. So to put in context, guys, like I'm just tired of hearing like people complain about this. Oh, how are the Pittsburgh Pirates supposed to compete? All right, so we used the Pirates. Me and Pharrell talked about this earlier in the day. We used the Pirates as an example. This was their 2023 revenue. Generally the same, but, you know what I mean? And then their 2024 payroll. $309 million revenue. They spent $120 million on players, guys.
Yep.
They decided to keep the rest of the money. Like, you know what I'm saying? They actually have $309 million. They just don't want to spend it. Like, to put in context, Cam, the Toronto Blue Jays brought in $328 million. Bro, that's only $20 million more than the Pittsburgh Pirates. The Blue Jays spent $246 million on players out of the $328 million they brought in. Second in Major League Baseball, 75% of their revenue. So it's comical to see Blue Jay fans rip their ownership group. And I've told them this for years. You might not like their company, but if you don't think they're trying to win, you're delusional. They spend the second most money in baseball that they bring in. Number one, I found this interesting, Kurtz, and not a surprise if you think about it, the Mets. The Mets are at the top of the board. They spend 87% of their money, George, on players. And if you think about it, Cohen's so rich, he just doesn't care about making a profit with the Mets. You know what I'm saying? He's like, whatever, we'll break even, we'll make money in merchandise, and I just want to win a World Series. Like, if you're a Met fan, Uncle Steve is putting his money where his mouth is, bro. 87%, Kurtz, compared to, like you said, your Yankees. Hell, the Yankees brought in $679 million in revenue. They only spent $316 on players. That's only 46.5%, Kurtz.
Yeah. We all know this is what the Yankees have done here. They don't spend every last dime. They can blow past the Dodgers. They want to spend $400 million, but they're not going to do that. You listen. What have we heard from Hal Steinbrenner a couple of times? Right? Oh, we shouldn't need to spend $300 million to win a World Series championship. Right? He said that multiple times here, even though we know that's not true. You need to spend the money on the right way. And by the way, I'm of the belief, by the way, that those numbers they show you there, they're a little short. I think these teams make more money
they're
than
lying.
that.
Not to mention, not to mention. Yeah, because I'll be real. The Dodgers definitely brought in more than $549 million. But the thing is, they get parking, and it's not included. Like you said, you get it. It's it's like Hollywood theaters. They're very shady with their accounting practices. But to put in context, guys, like look at the Oakland Athletic owner. He's basically the new Jeffrey Loria, who went into Montreal, got the team out of Montreal, didn't go to Washington, gave the team to baseball. They gave him money to take over the Marlins. Then he got the state to build him a new stadium. Then he sold the team. It's like a grift. It's like a pyramid scheme. And the Athletic guy did the same thing, where he's just, soft landing into Vegas, and the people in Nevada are going to pay for it. But how about this, guys? The Oakland Athletics payroll was revenue, $241 million. So put that in context. They literally had like 3,000 fans at games, and they still are bringing in $241 million a year. They spend 84 of it on players. That's a big-time profit, guys. So, like, people say, the Athletics just put a little small market. No, it's not. Same with Tampa. Tampa Bay Rays, bro. They have $301 million revenue. They spent exactly $100 million on players, 33% of their revenue, Kurtz. And as you state, all these teams, the Rays, the Athletics, the Orioles are other cheap son of a bitches, even though they're good. $328 million revenue, $116 million payroll, 35.4%. Tigers, 38%. Pirates, 38%. Nationals, 38%. Reds, 40%. This is a real embarrassment, this team. The Seattle Mariners. The Mariners' revenue, $396 million, which is like up there amongst the top in baseball. And they only spent $160 million on players, 40% only. That's why they don't win. Let's just call it out for what it is.
And Gabe, you look at you look at SportsRage here, and the thing is, you look at the Dodgers 2, Yankees 3, Jays 7. Who's number 1? Philly. Like, I know there's a lot of deferred money and other things like that. Like, there's a whole misconception about, oh, we're doing this and we're doing that, right, George? Like, don't you, like, you know what I mean? It's like Philadelphia spending their number, like, you look at the Yankees and the Dodgers, like, oh, they're spending so much more. No, Philadelphia is number 1. They're number 1. So what's the problem here?
Money here. I remember back when Manny Machado and I forget the other guy who was Bryce Harper, when they were both free agents. Keith Law, who used to be an assistant GM for the Toronto Blue Jays, now a professional scout, he said flat out, every team could sign Machado and Harper and still make money. It's just a question of how much money do they want to make. That's the only question here. Some of these guys are so greedy, like they're ever going to spend $120 million anyway. You know, it's sad.
How about, you want real greed, guys? How about this for greed, Kurtz? The Cubs, $506 million revenue, $236 payroll. Only for, how about the Red Sox? Red Sox, $500 million revenue, $219 million payroll, 43%. Oh, they're keeping 57% of the money. They'd rather make $300 million a year than win a World Series. Point blank.
So my team didn't win this weekend, but I still did with this app that's taking over the game. Sports Millions Pick'em lets you make quick and easy predictions. Pick your favorite players, go higher or lower, and you can still win big even if your team loses. Plus, the multiplier is insane. With just a few picks, you can win big money. So get on it. They've got a welcome bonus to help you start off your winning streak.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The two guys that can do it all.
Too much electricity this morning.
This is a good time. We're having a lot of fun.
I had to do a triple take. Ka-ching! Why? Because of parity.
I didn't mean to offend.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Load management is a dirty word.
Let him rip.
You know what? Circumstances provide the results.
What?
How do you do this one?
Oh, Donnie, you got such a good show there.
A network that is booming.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I am Morency. Countdown to first pitch is on March 18th and 19th. Major League Baseball. Still some free agents out there. There's always a buzz about the Blue Jays and what they're doing. They're always in the news. And one thing I'll say, too, about the Blue Jays is their fans have, like, I don't know why their fans, people, they should be mad at the media. Like, the media has been wrong all the time. Like, why did, you know what I mean? Did Blue Jay fans really think you were getting Ohtani? Like, there wasn't a hope in hell. Why did Soto? Like, Soto wasn't going there. So, like, Soto didn't re-sign with the Yankees. So if you're a Blue Jay fan, why would you be upset that Soto didn't sign with the Blue Jays? Like, the expectations, so, like, where I'm going to, Santander was a nice signing. He's going to provide some pop to the lineup. They need to add some more. They brought in a Gold Glove second baseman as well in the offseason, and they're still going to get another pitcher. They're still working on a couple other things. But it's like whoever they get, people are like, oh, well, it's not Soto or Ohtani. I hate to break it to you people, but 1992 is over. Like Dave Winfield and Paul Molitor, these guys are not walking through the door. Ricky Henderson's gone, unfortunately. You know what I'm saying? It's just different era.
When you need them.
But when the Blue Jays were the hot team, did the Blue Jays ruin baseball, Kurtz, at the time? You know what I mean? You can't.
No,
right? They brought Joe Carter, and they signed everybody, bro. The Blue Jays signed everybody.
Henderson, David Cohn, Dave Stewart, anybody. They grabbed every single guy to
star player. They were like the Niners, and they were like the Niners and Cowboys of the era. They were like, you're a star player. Sign with us. What do you think, Kurtz?
The Dodgers are the villain. It's great for professional sports, right? You mentioned the Cowboys and the Niners in the 90s. They were the bad guys, right? Everyone's trying to beat them. Everyone's going to try to beat the Dodgers now. No one likes the Yankees anyway. It's good for the game, once again, for the Dodgers to be great. Listen, I think the Dodgers are going to be, the Dodgers have 9, literally, I'm not even joking. They have like 9 starting pitchers here. I mean, it's wild what they can do here. Their Lions will score 1,000 runs, and I don't think I'm that far off. I think it'll be over 875, 900. It's a really, really good team. But as we all know, 5-game series, 7-game series, different things can happen. The Padres were within 1 game of beating them last year. They were up 2-1, and it'll feel great if you do beat them, right? You'll feel thrilling to beat them. If the Yankees play with Dodgers next year and the Yankees beat the Dodgers, Yankees won and beat the Dodgers, the Goliath. So you'll feel good times too. That being said, I'm very happy the Dodgers are in the National League and the Yankees don't have to worry about them.
And like you said, it's good for baseball in the sense that wherever the Dodgers go on the road, it's going to sell out, and fans are going to be chanting "Beat LA," and everyone's going to hate them, and you know what I mean. So they're gonna sell tickets for your local home team owner as well. But I just find it comical that people get mad at the Dodgers instead of their own billionaire owners that are making hundreds of millions of dollars. But whatever, people have always taken the side of the rich for whatever reason or another. It's baffling. Kurtz, Commanders, Eagles, and then the Bills and the Chiefs. Who do you got? Who's playing in the Super Bowl, Kurtz? Who's going to win the NFC Conference Championship game?
I think Washington's going to be a major threat here. I really do. I think they're going to give the Eagles all they can handle here. I'm going to take, as far as betting-wise, I'm going to take the Commanders. I think they cover. I do think the Eagles will win the game barely here, but I don't feel great about it. I can't believe the Commanders have a legitimate shot to win this game. Can't believe this at all here. As for the AFC, I'm on the Bills, man. I know we're worried about the refs and what's going to happen in Kansas City, but I think the Bills are just the better team here. I think it's their time. Chiefs, I think, they've won a lot of games this year. Maybe they shouldn't have won. Lucky bounces here and there. Bills beat them. I know it was in Buffalo. They still beat them. So I'm going Bills and Philadelphia.
Bills and Philadelphia in a Super Bowl that I kind of been thinking, listen, I thought it was the Bills and the Lions or the Bills and the Eagles all along. And here it is right now. And, man, I fear Saquon Barkley, but I got to worry about the Kansas City Chiefs first. I was hoping that the Rams were going to knock them off last week. And it would be, you know what, I'm hoping that Washington knocks them off, even though they would be a freaking challenge to deal with. Washington beat the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl in 1991 as well. So there's been a lot of talk about the officiating. Clete Blakeman is the official for the Buffalo game and the Kansas City Chief game. And clearly the NFL is they're aware. They've heard the criticisms, and they've heard the so-called biasness, because all you need to know is Clete Blakeman doing the Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs are 5-6 straight up, 4-6-1 against the spread with Clete Blakeman. But on the other flip side of this, Sean Hockley, the Eagles are 6-0 straight up under Sean Hockley as a referee. Although I don't think, guys, that the NFL is not like some of these other leagues that needs television ratings. People are going to watch the Super Bowl no matter what. You know what I'm saying? So it's not, this whole Taylor Swift stuff and this and that. The Buffalo Bills would be a great story if they were in the Super Bowl. The Eagles are a very popular team, and Washington have a big-time fan base, and they haven't been there in a while. So I don't think the officials are going to deliberately screw over any teams this Sunday. Do you think so, George? Maybe I'm being naive.
I try very hard. I don't want to think they will here. But let me tell you something that bothers me here. Now, you mentioned Clete Blakeman's crew and Hockley's crew, and there'll be a different crew for the Super Bowl, right? I don't understand how that works. Why isn't the best crew, whatever's rated the best or ranked the best, why aren't they working one of the games on Sunday? Why
you know what, George? They're not even the crews, which is kind of bizarre as well. They break them up.
Mixed crews.
So then you don't have the same continuity. You know what I'm saying? So, like, they'll have a referee, but then there'll be a bunch of other sort of crew members from other crews, which I don't understand, George.
I don't get that either because, once again, ref for a long time. I liked refing with the guy that I refed the most because I knew what he was going to do. And I knew what he would call. I knew what he was watching. You put these all-star crews together with guys who don't work with each other. I think that's silly. It's just silly here. But like I said, I'm going to find it weird that the crew that refs the Super Bowl is not one of the crews that's working this weekend. I don't know. How does that make any sense? But they're not working they need more than 3 weeks off? Doesn't make any sense to me.
And I'll tell you, how about this, too? Home teams this year with Clete Blakeman as the referee, 5-11 straight up.
I like Clete.
Which goes to show, though, that Clete Blakeman when that number shows you that he is not influenced by the home crowd. He is not influenced by the noise, and referees will admit it. Referees admitted it during the COVID stuff. There was a study done in soccer, and the referees were much more neutral without fans in the stands, actually.
Great call.
Thanks, George.
There's
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he is becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you, too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Real momentum on Deion Sanders becoming the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
I heard that this morning.
And Dallas is interested in the idea. Deion is interested in the idea, and there is equal interest in moving up to get Shedeur Sanders to be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys under Deion.
Be a hell of a reality show.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP of the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP of the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
SportsRage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
Upset specials going on right now in the National Basketball Association. Always the way, isn't it? We talked earlier before tip-off saying, you know what? It's hard to like Sacramento laying 7.5 points, even though I did think they were going to win the basketball game. I didn't think they'd be down 17 at the half like they are right now. Golden State are up 65-48 on Sacramento. Sacramento are plus 8.5 right now. Sacktown have been good with these dramatic comebacks at home, though. So they are getting 8.5 points. I just clicked over 230.5 at the half here right now. And the Boston Celtics playing against the depleted Clippers team tonight, laying 11.5 points. They're only up by 3. It's 52-49 with a little under 5 minutes remaining in the first half of play. We got a football score here to start the game. Stanford guys are up 21-3 on Miami. Wow, what a great start for the Miami Hurricanes tonight. Stanford were laying 11. They're murdering the Canes early, 21-3. SDSU are up 7 right now. They're laying 12.5 in-game, right around where the number closed in the game. And Georgia and Arkansas are playing in the late night hour, 63-63 with a minute left in the basketball game. Let's bring in Ian Cameron, a.k.a. Babano. Ian Cameron, what's going on, Babano? How you doing tonight? And we don't have Ian Cameron, a.k.a. Babano. I've said it before. The only thing that can silence Babano is a muted mic cam. It's like it's unheard of. Like, you know what I mean? Where you get silence. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, clearly there's
a tie cat loss. Bad hockey bet. Yeah, that's Babano.
Saw his lips moving. Saw his lips. Saw his lips moving. All right, Babano, are you with us, or do you need to No. All right, they're going to work. We're going to work on Babano's audio. We're being informed. I'm being told by Master Control. First thing they said, it's not on us. So we'll see if Babano can reset his mic.
That's the best. Not on us.
There was the.
Good. That was clean. Yeah, it sounded good, Babano.
There you are, Babano.
Say it again.
All right.
How you doing?
Wow, Babano.
It's not.
Babano like refuses to accept blame.
No, I've never my fault. Never, ever my fault. You guys know that.
It's right, Babano.
Yeah. But yeah,
you lose a pick, it's the ref's fault. It's the player's fault.
Yeah,
it's not your fault.
So when I thought people could hear me, I was saying I laid 9.5 with Stanford, so I was thrilled to hear that score. Miami is that bad. They're 0-7 straight up and against the number. In their last 7 games, they haven't covered a point spread since Larinaga quit. I mean, that program is just decimated. They're a disaster, and it's all about rebuilding after what's clearly going to be. They're going to be the Louisville of the ACC this year. Team you don't want your money on. They're going to be that bad.
It's pretty wild. We talked about it. They're 3-15 against the spread. So a lot of times, you know, bad teams, you know, they might have a bad record. Like Raptors are a good example. They got a bad record, but they have a winning ATS record because they get so many points all the time. But, and you see this with college basketball teams, but Miami, they're just bad. Like Babano said, good comparison about Louisville, but like they're one of the worst covering teams in the country, playing double digits. And not to mention, we saw it with FSU and Cal. These ACC teams, bro, they're not used to going to the West Coast in a regular season like this. And we're saying it doesn't end well for them. Mick Cronin's complaining and crying about it. Oh, I've seen the Statue of Liberty 3 times already this year. It's like, well, dude, like that's you know, this is the conference you're in right now. You got to travel now. Like you guys want the Big Ten money. Now you got the Big Ten schedule.
You
same
break
with
up
these
the
ACC
Pac-12.
teams.
I can't listen to that. Can't listen to the complaints. You could have stayed in the Pac-12.
I'm just going to say one thing and I'll shut up. The ACC in football, look at them every year. Bowl games, gag. Like that conference game a while ago, they used to be like, yeah, the ACC, we got some real strong. It's a bad conference when you take ATS records, teams, underachievement. That's all I'm going to say is that's a conference.
In both sports, Cam, football and basketball, ACC is falling. Yeah.
Take a look at the numbers.
But
it's there.
But they do have the Duke Blue Devils are the favorites to win the NCAA tournament. You guys are right. If there's a conference that could use a shot in the arm and a feel, you know what I mean, and some money and just sort of a feel good, hey, we're still here. Listen, the ACC had some good teams this year in football, but not great teams. They were bad in bowl games. You can't dispute it. It was more so FSU. Right, it's just FSU were just so bad this year, and that surprised people. But if you look, we went over the odds earlier. It's basically the SEC, Duke, and UConn as far as like the top 10 teams in college basketball with the odds.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he's becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you, too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Real momentum on Deion Sanders becoming the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
I heard that this morning.
And Dallas is interested in the idea. Deion is interested in the idea, and there is equal interest in moving up to get Shedeur Sanders to be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys under Deion.
Be a hell of a reality show.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP of the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP of the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
All right, so as I stated, we've seen the Sacramento Kings, since Doug Christie's taken over, they've been unbelievable. They've been 9-2 straight up. They're 9-1 in their last 10 basketball games. And I said they were down big at the half here, but we've seen them come back time and time again. I jumped in on the over 230 and a half in game. They're down by 15 right now. They were getting 8.5. It's down to 6.5. I wouldn't be surprised, guys. It's pretty crazy, though. They're down by 15 points right now, but they're only plus 250 on the money line.
Interesting.
So you can't say, that's like, you got to take this. It's really not good value considering they're down, but it also lets you know that the computer and the algorithm here believes the same thing, that this game is far from over and the Sacramento can go on a run. Hell, it's just fell to plus 215 right now. They just cut the lead to 13. And get this, guys. How about this, Babado? The Clippers were getting 11.5. No one playing for them tonight. They're beating the Celtics outright right now, 59-57.
That game I didn't want no part of because the Clippers were banged up, shorthanded like crazy, but Boston can't put 2 good games together. You go back to the start of January, they have not won and covered 2 straight games since the beginning of January, Boston.
How many times are me and Gabe going to say this when you have nobody playing for your team? Nobody. It is the best time to jump on it. Like, this has been going on for a while now. If you look at the percentages, these teams cover. They always show up. Oh, there's no chance. There's no chance these guys are going to. Well, you tell me. Gabe, remember we were getting teams at 13 points winning outright? It's been going on for a long time now. Guys are happy. Sometimes when the stars are out, it's like, thank you. We got guys coming into play, and they do well. It's a fact in the NBA. It's a fact. It happens all the time. Just saying.
Teams also get drilled, though, too. Like, also when they're short-handed.
No, but I'm just saying, if you look at the math,
it goes both ways.
If you look at the math, like, some of those big dogs went outright, too. So if you actually look at, like, what they're doing, I'm just saying I'd rather take a shot on those teams. You're right. They do get drilled. That's part of the game. But I'm saying they also show up a lot of the time in coverage. It's like, oh, yeah, this team's missing this guy, and they're going to do this and this and this. It's not true.
It happens sometimes, not all the time, is the best way to
But like you were saying, too, like you're saying, Babano, the Celtics as well. Remember last year when they won, even in the past couple of years, the Celtics, they've lost as like 18-point favorites and stuff a couple of times. Right? They're not they'll get
Sacramento
up for the
went
bigger
to Boston
teams.
just now. The resurgent Sacramento Kings went to Boston recently and beat them. You know, it was a double-digit dot. Yep.
But I'm saying, yeah, like they'll get up for some games. But I saw something on Twitter the other day. It was pretty funny, and it was about the Celtics. The Celtic fans were getting mad about the team, about their inconsistency, like you said. And it was basically Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum was just like, there was a video. Somebody took a video of Tatum courtside during the timeout, and like it was pretty late in the game, and the game was important and stuff. And during the timeout, Tatum was just basically busted, just looking at all the hot girls in the stands. Right? Like he was just like kind of looking, he was looking around, and then he talked to a teammate about it, and they were looking. But people don't realize this. I got mad too. I was at a Laker Raptor game in LA, and it was the same thing. Like, bro, like half the Raptor players were not listening to Nick Nurse during the timeout. Like, they were all like gawking at all the women in the stands, and like just
you're looking
like,
at a different type of whiteboard.
Yeah, like they just didn't like no interest like at all. And I was thinking, wow, Jason Tatum even. It's like the dog days of winter now in the NBA, right? You get these players are kind of like they're kind of checking out a little bit. But yeah, and Cam is right though. Oftentimes when it's tonight the Warriors weren't at full strength. They're winning by 14 right now. So you never really know. The NBA is so unfreaking predictable.
You're right.
NHL hockey, the Winnipeg Jets are up 2-1 on the Colorado Avalanche, and it's 1-0 for the Panthers over the Kings. Any hockey plays for you here, Babano? Figured the Jets would come to play tonight after their coach was as mad as he was the other night.
And they have. That being said, how many times have we seen Colorado tie games and win games in the third period at home when that altitude kicks in? So I don't know if I'm betting it, but I couldn't talk anyone out of maybe a draw plus 240 live or Colorado money line plus 280 live. They're never out of a game at home, and they're only down by a goal right now.
Cam, any opinion on the Jets and the Avalanche? I like the Jets coming into this game. I thought they would bounce back, but they're minus 380
the Kings
now.
are live. I think the Kings are live. Like Florida has a 1-0 lead late in the second period. And now you're getting the Kings at plus 230, plus 1.5, minus 155 on FanDuel, 160 on my other book. So, you know what? I think the Kings can come back and win that game, especially an embarrassment performance against Pittsburgh. There's a lot of hockey left. I would look at the Kings.
You can't argue the price. Problem is the Panthers are so good. And
remember, the Kings have not lost 2 in a row at home all year. Not once have they lost 2 in a row at home.
And that last game at home, it was their first game back after a road trip. It was their first game back after they had a game canceled. It was their first game back after the fires. So now, you figure they would settle down a little bit tonight. But I could see this thing coming in bunches, guys. Now, listen, I think it's crazy that the Panthers are minus 320. But
exactly.
The Kings could lose a bunch of games in a row here. They're one of the more streaky teams in the National Hockey League, where they'll have a really good 10 days, then they'll have a really bad week and a half. It's the same thing. It's sort of like a pendulum, like a scale with these guys. I wouldn't be surprised if the Kings are sort of sliding into a little bit of a slide at home. And it's weird too because normally the Kings, I was going to say though, normally the Kings are a really good road team and are not so great at home. This year they've been freaking dominant at home. As I stated, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a little slide here. Just from the number perspective, plus 235, and like Babano said, the Avs are only down a goal, and you're getting plus 300 with 13 minutes left in the game. But with that being stated, I would trust Colorado to come back more. I think the Kings could lose tonight. I don't like them.
Well, we could do this. We could take both dogs, and if one of them wins, we make money. I just want to say this one thing as a guy that follows the Leafs. Columbus owns them. I know that sounds insane, but they do. They go into Columbus, they get murdered. The Leafs play them tonight, they get murdered. I don't know what the hell's going on, Babano. Maybe you could tell me. You're doing all your hockey shows. The Columbus Blue Jackets, as crazy dogs, beat the Leafs all the time. All the time. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, and at the very least, they've given them a tough game the last 7. Since they've lost, they've been right there, or they've lost in overtime, or they've lost by 1 goal, and obviously it happened again tonight. That being said, this was not the same old Leafs didn't even show up tonight. They actually did play decently. They had a bunch of chances. Merzlikins was really good, and Hildeby wasn't. And that was basically the difference in the game right there.
They play him tough.
Yeah, it's one of those classic, like you said. I saw it earlier in the game. Elise Roach shooting him like 19-6 or something, right? They were down 1-0.
Really
That's hockey.
It's not like they no-showed,
but
they just couldn't beat Merzlikins.
No, but the last time
it is
Elise
true.
went to Columbus, they got murdered by like 4, like Bilbao. They lose like 6-1 and stuff. I admit it.
No,
Like,
the Blue
sometimes
Jackets have beaten them 4 of the last 5 times now that they played. They're 4-1 against them in the last 5.
What are the lines? Plus 250, plus 300. Like, it's not like it's some kind of pick 'em. That's the whole scenario. The Blue Jackets are very good against the Leafs if you want to make money. That's all I'm saying.
The wild card race in the East is absolutely
Colorado
nuts.
just scored.
Absolutely nuts.
2-2.
There you go. 2-2.
Avalanche.
There it is. Just like that. Plus 300. And that number now is suddenly moved all the way to Colorado minus 120. So that's the wildness of the NHL, guys. You get it's one goal. Like they overreact to this. Like I said, the Kings, you're getting the value too at plus 240 just from the price standpoint.
And Florida
it's always
played last
amazing to
night
me.
in Anaheim, so they may get a little fatigue setting in the third. Who knows? It's a possibility.
They did, but it was a pretty easy game for them. I know because I was on the Ducks plus 2.5, and it was a 5-2 loss in the end. like the Ducks. That's the thing. The Panthers are just a freaking machine. Like they are. I think, too, as well with the Panthers, I think they're looking, good teams. I think they're sort of seeing, we got to end strong before this layoff that's coming up in 2 weeks.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he's becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Real momentum on Deion Sanders becoming the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
I heard that this morning.
And Dallas is interested in the idea. Deion is interested in the idea, and there is equal interest in moving up to get Shedeur Sanders to be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys under Deion.
Be a hell of a reality show.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP in the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP in the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
I always say, I am Gabriel Morency, SportsGrid Radio and Television Network, Sirius XM Channel 159. I always say one of the things I like about baseball is every pitch, there's like literally, tens of thousands of possibilities. And, I've been watching baseball for like 50 years. And, you still see things you've never seen before. Like at Fenway a couple of years ago, Buddy hit the ball and it actually smashed the light bulb on the scoreboard and went right in. So it was like a ball instead of the scoreboard. Like, never seen that before. Right? You get these weird plays that happen. And in hockey, yeah, you'll see some strange things every now and then. Last night in Edmonton, it was one of the stranger situations in which the Oilers scored a goal. They lost the Washington won the game anyway, so they were laughing about it after. They asked if they could get the nachos. They wanted to eat them after. They were joking about it. But the Oilers scored a goal last night. Corey Perry scored on Logan Thompson, except an Oiler fan threw a plate of nachos on the ice. Like he was sitting like close to the glass, and he flipped like a tray of nachos, like deliberately. So he threw up whatever. I don't know. The guy's an idiot. Like, I don't know why you're throwing nachos on the ice, but he threw a plate of nachos on the ice, and it landed perfectly. Like it didn't spill. Like it sort of landed like boom. So it was like a plate of nachos on the ice. And Logan Thompson and all the Capital players were like, "Oh, is that a plate of nachos?" They were talking to each other as the game, like, they're like, "Hey," and they all started yelling at the ref, "Hey, there's effing nachos on the ice," which is a weird thing to yell. They were laughing about that after. They said, "Yeah, I've never yelled at the ref. Hey, there's freaking nachos on the ice." So, Logan, the thing is, Corey Perry teed up the shot right around from where the nachos were, and Logan Thompson said after that, "I admit I shouldn't have been distracted by it, but I was." And he goes, "It was just so bizarre." He goes, "I saw the guy throw the nachos on the ice." Right? So, this whole thing, if you're a goalie, guys, you see everything, right? I mean, like you're into the game, but you're looking around and you see, like, you'll notice stuff in the crowd. And like, so I guess Thompson goes, "I saw the guy flip the nachos and I told the ref there's freaking nachos on the ice." And then he goes, "As I was bitching about it, Corey Perry scored on me." So Thompson admitted after, he goes, "I really should have been more locked in." And he goes, "But I got distracted by the nachos." And the Capitals coach after asked the Oilers if he can get the nachos. They wanted to joke with him in the room after. If you see the Capitals have a nacho night or something in the future, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, PTI talked about it. Michael Wilbon too. Typical opinion from Wilbon. He said, "I didn't know they ate nachos in Edmonton. I figured they'd have moose meat sandwiches."
Settle down.
What are you talking about?
We got
Bro? Like,
Caribou burgers.
Oh, they have popcorn on an oil.
Never seen a nacho
I
here.
thought they ate dirt there. Like, idiot. Like,
Enough. You're so right, Gabe. It's like
he said, "I thought they'd throw moose meat sandwiches on the ice or something like that." It's like, what are you talking about?
I agree. Enough. Like that's just
moose meat sandwiches. All right, so we talked about. Hey, look, Miami are making a little bit of comeback right now, 34-21 for the Stanford Cardinals. So they've cut the lead to 13 suddenly. Stanford are laying 16.5. Meanwhile, Sacramento are trying to come back, but it's not really working for them. It's 81-69. So, they have outscored them by 5 in the third quarter of play here. And we were saying, Babetta, you talked about Cam and was bringing up the big prices when a team is only down by a goal. You figure we'd be getting more than plus 240 with the Kings, considering they're down right now by, 12? But that tells me that's an indication that they're aware that Sacramento could come back. I'm actually expecting a big Sacramento run here at some point.
Agreed.
I'm on Golden State in this game pregame at plus 7.5, just because I thought you got a team that got embarrassed and lost by 40 with Steve Kerr as the coach and Steph Curry. They're going to at least show some pride, show some guts tonight, and at least they've done that here in the early going. But we've also seen Golden State during this bad stretch of basketball in the last month and a bit blow leads, lose games in the fourth quarter. So if you're Sacramento, you're probably not out of this yet. And if you get this game close, maybe Golden State's going to fear some of those late game, end game nightmares once again.
Yeah, it's weird that Steve Kerr has won as much as he has, but he gets called out a lot in the Bay Area for not being able to close games out. They're like, "Oh, Kerr blew it again with his rotation in the last couple of minutes of the game." But Babano is right. The Warriors have been a little bit shaky down the stretch in close basketball games. And we've even seen Steph Curry get a little bit frustrated about it. It's an underdog night tonight, though, guys. As Cam was saying, look, the shorthanded Warriors, they're up 85-76 right now. Shorthanded Clippers are only down 1 at the half, 60-59. Air Force, we're getting like 13.5, 14 against SDSU. This game is 52-51 with 8.5 minutes left. And now you got Miami, Florida. They were down 21-3 early. Now it's 37-21, so they're sort of battling back and hanging around just a little bit. All right, so we got NFL football. We'll get Babano's picks. I think we got about 2 minutes before the break here. So what do you think about the NFC Conference Championship game, Babano, with the Commanders and the Philadelphia Eagles?
So there's a big time debate going back and forth. People I've talked to, there's a lot of people that think Philadelphia is still the better team, that the young Washington Commanders, eventually they're going to hit the wall, and, you just can't make this run this deep, and you're not quite ready to make the Super Bowl. But the more I watch Washington, and maybe there's some flaws for Detroit, they still had a lot of injuries on defense, but, to go in there against a team that was rested, had all that time to prepare, and for Jaden Daniels to just slice up and carve up that Detroit Lions defense the way that he did was damn impressive to me. And the way they played on defense in terms of, they gave up yards, but they got turnovers. They forced Jared Goff into mistakes. And when I look at this Washington team, I think they're playing with great confidence. I look at a Philadelphia team that they've incurred some injuries in these first two playoff games that they've played, and that's concerning. Quinyon Mitchell, great rookie corner. Is he going to play? They lost Nakobe Dean. Jalen Hurts banged up his knee last week. These are real concerns for the Philadelphia Eagles, for a team that's going to have to win by a touchdown to cover the number.
One thing that we'll bring up for everybody, 5 quarterbacks we've seen in the past have been in this position before. We'll break it down on the other side, but no rookie quarterback has made it to the Super Bowl in this spot.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
He did nothing for 5 weeks. So he is becoming his brother. So I don't want to hear about how great TJ Watt is with his 0 playoff wins. And he's the first guy to admit it. He comes right out and says, I've never won a playoff game. I don't matter. All right, at least we all know who the best player on the team is. It's George Pickens. If you don't believe that, well, then screw you too.
Pharrell, Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid. The Bostonian versus the Book.
Real momentum on Deion Sanders becoming the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
I heard that this morning.
And Dallas is interested in the idea. Deion is interested in the idea, and there is equal interest in moving up to get Shedeur Sanders to be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys under Deion.
Be a hell of a reality show.
The Bostonian versus the Book.
We all know MVPs don't win the Super Bowl. It's not about MVPs, man. The only MVP, fine. Win the MVP in the Super Bowl. Nobody cares about the MVP in the regular season besides people that bet on it, the actual player themselves, and their agent that's getting a cut of the bonus money. Other than that, who cares? What do you care who wins the MVP? Like I said, unless you bet on it. Right? If you bet on it, fine. Then I guess you care.
Sports Rage tonight. Only on SportsGrid.
We're rolling along here. We're into the final stretch of the Wicked Wednesday. And as I was saying when we went to the break, there's been 5 rookie quarterbacks who started in the conference championship game before. And none of them won. All right? None of them won, and only one of them covered a point spread. Sean King. You have Sean King, Ben Roethlisberger, Joe Flacco, Mark Sanchez, Brock Purdy, and Jaden Daniels. So now you got Jaden Daniels in this spot. Yeah, Jaden Daniels, it was interesting. He was asked about this today. about being in the spot. And he goes, really, I don't think about the Super Bowl. I think about each day, one day at a time. And I do believe that's the thing with this kid. Rick Saratella said earlier in the week, like he's too young to know any better, or he doesn't care, or he doesn't seem to feel pressure the same way that some people feel pressure. It's a little bit different. You get into a conference championship game. But I think Washington are confident. I said Quinn seemed to have sort of a quiet confidence about him at the press conference today as well. I like one line that he said. He goes, "This isn't baseball. We don't have a 7-game series. We need to play our best football at 3:00 on Sunday afternoon." I like the bluntness of it. It's not a 7-game series. We've got 3 hours to do this. He goes, we got 3 hours. We'll get at 3:00 on. We'll find out on Sunday. And he said, I like our chances. Speaking of which, massive comeback. I've been calling it all night here. Here come the Sacramento Kings, 85-84, just like that. Sometimes, guys, for people tuning in, you can just sort of read between the numbers. You got a team, guys, that were down by 15 and 16 points, and it was like plus 215 on the money line. What did that tell you? Like, that any moment that the computer thought that this thing would break, and it has, and suddenly the Sacramento Kings are suddenly minus 165 on the money line, just like that. All right, Babano. So Washington, Philadelphia, your final picks here, and then Buffalo and Kansas City. Who you got?
So I got Washington at plus the points right now, but I've got a 2-team alternate. I don't like the alternative spreads very often, but I'm going to use them to my benefit here this weekend. I got Washington plus 8.5 in a 2-team alternative spread parlay with the next game, the Bills-Chiefs, which we can talk about now.
And who did you include your alternate parlay with?
Buffalo plus 8.5, the same
Bills,
number.
Plus the points.
Yeah. Look, the way I see it here, Gabe, is like this is going to be a one-score game. I mean, you look at every recent Bills-Chiefs game, whether it's regular season or playoffs, they've been tight. They've been down to the wire. So the ability to have more than a touchdown in your pocket is a great thing to have. When I look at it, can Kansas City win this? Yes. Are they going to get the majority of the calls? Probably, because we saw it, and we saw some heinous ones get called against the Houston Texans last week. At the end of the day, sometimes a franchise is ready to take that step. And I think if you look at the Buffalo Bills, did it get scary at the end against Baltimore? Did they feast on turnovers? They got outgained. I get all that. But they found a way to win at the end of the day. And I think if you look at Josh Allen and the Bills, they've won these first 2 games against Denver and Baltimore without really having to put the game in Josh Allen's hands.
Take a look at the
arm.
stats. What Houston did to Kansas City. They outgained him in time of possession, yards, everything else. So I'm not going to worry about this Baltimore stuff. Houston, if not Stroud taking stupid sacks at the end, like they were moving the ball on KC. Like I was like, here we go. Like Houston carved these guys up for a while. Come on.
And I mentioned it to you guys during the break, and I'll mention it here. It's very difficult to win 3 straight Super Bowls, and also to get to 3 straight Super Bowls. We've seen 3 teams in the past win back-to-back Super Bowls and then get to the conference championship game the next season. And all 3 of those teams lost in the conference championship game after winning back-to-back Super Bowls. The last one was the 94 Cowboys. Troy Aikman and company won the bowl in 92 and in 93, and then the Niners beat them in the NFC championship game in 94, Steve Young. That's the last time it happened. So it's tough to get to the Super Bowl 3 years in a row. Kansas City will be looking to make that history on Sunday.
And even though it is in Kansas City, the Bills have shown an ability to win there before. Like you said, Babano, and one thing I brought it up earlier, like you talked about, all the games are close. I mean, in the playoffs. They had the overtime game. They had a 3-point game. They had the other 3-point game. People forget last year Bass missed a field goal. It was 27-24. He makes the kick. They're going to overtime, tied at 27. I think there actually was like 30 seconds left, so you never know. Maybe KC would have scored again after. But if not now, when? If you're the Bills, and even though it's in KC, Bills Mafia are pretty hardcore and pretty insane. Like, I get you know what I mean? This is almost going to have the feel like of a bowl game in a sense. Like, there's going to be a lot of Bills fans there. Unless KC fans don't want to sell the tickets, but considering the prices they're going to get, I would expect a lot of blue in the stands on Sunday. Other than that, you're on your own. Later.